Everybody, how y'all doing? Awesome. Well, my name is Kiera, and I am going to be your moderator today. Everybody ready to have a good time? Yeah. All right, perfect. So before we get started, obviously everybody knows this is my project is out. Now what panel? And the objective for today is to gain necessary guidance from seasoned professionals who unveil strategies and resources to navigate post-release landscape, ensuring your creative endeavors receive the attention and success they deserve. Take advantage of this opportunity to unlock the secrets of effectively promoting and maximizing the impact of your projects. Got it? Y'all gotta do better than that. Got it? Got it. All right, we're gonna have some good time today. So we're gonna go ahead and introduce all of our panelists. First, we have Tianna Faulkner. She is based here in Atlanta, whoop whoop, like me. Tianna is a freelance writer who loves writing and telling stories. Story topics include arts, entertainment, business, health, and lifestyle features. She has written pieces for the Atlanta Voice, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Zora Medium, and Atlanta Medium. Y'all make some noise for Tianna. Hey, Tianna, sit wherever you like. Next,
Hi.
Next, we have V. Andrews. V is a natural connector, passionate about cultivating community within film, entertainment, and media space. After graduating from Florida State University, V has thrived in the media landscape. They have produced and moderated a panel during the Atlanta Film Festival and been an experiential producer and community leader for the Ideas United. Y'all make some noise for V. And then we have Lizette London. Liz earned her MA in Black Feminist Visual Arts and Cultural Studies from NYU Gallatin School of Individualized Study in 2020 and her BA in Comparative Women's Studies from Spelman College in 2017. While completing her master's thesis from 2018 through 2020, Liz had the great honor and privilege of TAing for the Deborah Willis and Spike Lee. Lizette most recently worked as a researcher and director's assistant on Spike Lee's HBO NYC documentary, NYC Epicenters 9/11, 2021 and a half. Following that project, Lizette worked as an associate producer on any indie music doc. Everybody make some noise for Lizette. All right. We gotta turn the mics on. Y'all wanna say anything, add on to who you are before we get started?
No.
No?
I just want to add on, I'm a Clark Atlanta graduate. And so in addition to being a journalist, I'm a publicist as well as a creative writer.
Okay.
And I just want to say good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. We here. Feels great to convene with a whole bunch of artists and just amazing, brilliant people. So thank you for having us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. All right, let's get started. So what makes a project successful for you and what makes it unsuccessful? Anybody can start.
What makes a project successful for me is getting started and getting it completed. You know, so from start to finish, you finish your product. That, to me, that's what makes it successful. As far as being a journalist, you know, writing about that subject and, you know, everyone can read about it.
Yeah. I think for me, what makes it successful is along the same lines, but I think also if you're able to get it to the audiences that you want, that you created it for. So for me, when it comes to media and entertainment creation, I position a lot of the work that I do and a lot of the people that I work with to for the liberation of Black and queer people. And so not only are we telling stories that we want to see, but also we want to share those stories with audiences that look like us as well. So making sure that it's most successful if I told the story and it got to the people who needed to see it to be inspired by that story.
I think for me, what makes a project successful is knowing that you have an audience behind your project, you have a lot of support, you have a marketing plan, you have just a strategy behind how you're pushing your film out and what the buzz looks like around. Oh, well, okay, let me start there. So with the lens that I'm bringing to this conversation today is kind of like early career filmmaking for film projects and things of that nature, because I work mostly in the independent field or indie filmmaking. So everything that I talk about today will mostly be related to if you have an indie film project or a short doc or anything on YouTube or anything that is kind of like of a more visual nature. So yeah, for me, what I feel like makes it successful is just also knowing that you might have went through like screenings, getting the word out there, connecting with community organizations, connecting with company brands, just making sure that you get your film's name out there, your team's name out there, and getting the numbers to show, especially if you want to go into distribution, and making sure that you have everything documented behind that journey as well. So, yeah. I think it could be a little bit hard to make it unsuccessful, especially if you're super passionate and dedicated and just dedicated to the journey.
Thank you. So if you can let the audience know some strategies for navigating post-project releases, and what does that look like, what those strategies are?
So I can speak from, as a creative writer and having done publicity for book authors, in writing about book authors' books, get your intellectual property copywritten, and I don't mean mailing it to yourself, but actually registering it with the U.S. Copyright Office, and then get your following up, your followers. That's really important when you're promoting yourself and your book, to connect with your target audience and get your followers up so that they can follow you and read and buy your book. That's one of the next steps.
Yeah, I agree. I think the biggest thing, even before your project is released and done, you have to be thinking about, if you're thinking about distributing and getting it out there, of course you are, you have to be thinking well beforehand about the marketing and the promotional aspects. So building up your brand, like your own brand as an author, but also, or as a creator, and then also the brand of whatever that project is. So you have a brand, whether it's through your social media or even through the people that you connect with one-on-one, building out what that looks like, being a thought leader, and then sharing content around whatever your project is as well. So really thinking about what's your social media rollout gonna look like, and how are you gonna make sure you stand out amongst the crowd? Because like when you think about social media, and especially promoting your own projects, it feels daunting because there's so much content out there, so you're probably thinking, why is my book important? That's definitely a question you should be asking, is why is my book important? Who am I, or why is my project important? Who am I targeting this project to? And then also why and how am I gonna position myself differently in the field to promote it? So thinking well beforehand about your promotions, putting together like a EPK, like electronic press kit or something, to have like your synopsis together, a bio about you, having promotional assets like content created, content that's different than already out there, but also is in alignment with your actual project. And that's educational or inspirational, or whatever you're trying to promote, and then being consistent with it. So you want to think about those things well before you even gotten to the point of like, my project is done, now let me figure out how am I going to promote it. Be thinking about that as you're writing it, because then as you're producing the content, you can also be thinking, okay, let me take this as a soundbite, or let me take this as a quote, let me take this photo or this BTS footage, and I can turn it into a social media post and then have people respond to it or comment on it. So always be thinking about your promotions well beforehand and connecting with people who can help you do some of that work for you.
Just to add on to what Vi said, in terms of thinking in advance, last year when I worked on my independent film project, which is a short documentary, which I learned was a short feature documentary about 7 Black queer couples in Atlanta. It's called In Loving Color, Black Queer Love on Film. Through the ideation phase of like having a small team as well, we were thinking about what's going to happen once we're done with post-production. And like Bai said, having that social media strategy in place was super important because before we even got to filming, before we even finished the project, we needed to have a social media audience built up already so that they knew what was coming down the pipeline with our project. Because by the time our project was finished, we needed to already know that there were people there that were going to support us in getting the word out and coming to see the first screening in Atlanta. And it was also important because we had to raise money to do the project. Some of us came out of pocket for the project, but for the most part, we did a crowdfunding. We did crowdfunding through Seed and Spark. Seed and Spark is a platform that you can use to pitch your project, but also it was good for us because as early career filmmakers, it was our first kind of rodeo. And for example, like other big platforms such as I Fund Women, what's the other one? Kickstarter. Kickstarter, you have to raise 100% of your contribution goal in order to receive the money that people are sending or supporting you with. For Seed and Spark, you only have to raise 80% of your goal, which was good because we had a $13,000 goal and we raised $10,000. And boy, that was tricky, but also it helped us to get in motion about what it meant to really mobilize a social media audience. Because before the Kickstarter was even launched, before the crowdfunding project was even launched, it goes through a review process. In the review process, my team and I, we said, okay, time to get on Instagram. Time to get on Instagram, time to think about language that we want to use in captions, hashtags, how are we going to try to connect TikTok with Instagram, because with TikTok, you can reach so many people in such a short amount of time as well. Something about the algorithm of TikTok, it's incredible what TikTok is able to do. And so we just started getting images up there. We didn't have images for the film yet, but we had images of Black queer couples, from like throughout history that we used to kind of get folks to start thinking about some of the visuals that we were going to use that were aligned with our project. And so within 30 days of our campaign being greenlit to launch, that's when the ball started rolling, because once you start rolling with that, every day you have to post on social media, even if you don't want to. And that was the biggest thing for my team and I. It's like, yeah, we're all millennials, but do we really have time to get on social media every day? And I was like, well, we need the money because we have crew that we need to fly out to be our DP. We have people to pay. We have the couples to honor. We wanted it to be a really good project. So in terms of strategy, it started way before the project was even completed, way before we went into production, way before our crowdfunding campaign even was greenlit on the platform. And so going throughout the production process, by the time we were finished, we already had a good enough following that we were able to then pitch to community organizations to say, hey, can you screen our project? So another leg of the strategy was finding out who were the folks in the community that were able to get our films up on a screen. Because at this point, honestly, a lot of our resources were already not depleted, but they were already used because production was such a vigorous process that we had all of our resources used and money. And so by the time post-production came about, that was another thing we should have thought about, well, how much would we need to get through post-production, because you also have a festival run, but also you need money for marketing. And so what we decided to do was just figure out if there were independent artists in the Atlanta community that could support us with screening our film. And so there's a community organization called Audio Visual Club, and they do pop-up screenings. And so a coworker referred me, and next thing you know, we were screening our film of 40 minutes to an audience of like 30 people for Pride Month at Peter Street Station. And that was amazing because that was our first public screening, and this was June, so just a couple of months ago. It was amazing because we were able to get the word out about our film. We were able to get folks to post on social media. Someone then approached us to have a speed dating event in Atlanta, which was great because part of the partnership was then, it allowed us to use some of the funds that we had from the event to then have for post-production. And so the strategy is it should be dynamic, it should be varied, it should be strategic with the people that you're talking to in the community, but it should definitely be there. And even thinking down to email language. There are different types of emails that you can compose that it shows what fares better with your audience or people that you're needing to pitch to. Because some emails will do great, but then some emails you might not get a response, and it's not because you don't have the information you need, but it's just the way that you compose that email. So how are you also talking to the folks that need to get you to that next level? Thinking very strategically about language. And as writers, even with filmmakers, we all know that it's important to, really utilize the language, but know that there's a way to say what you need to say in the way that you need to say it, in the most compelling way that you need to say it, because you only have but so much time.
Awesome. Y'all learning something? Awesome. With the rise of digital media, how can authors use these landscapes to stay on top of releases and promotions? Yeah, anybody can start, The question is, with the rise of digital media, how can authors use these landscapes to stay on top of releases and promotions? Through social media, I'm guessing it's the digital media.
I would say as a journalist, we've seen in recent years how everything has gone digital. So one, just like I mentioned before, it's, reaching out to those outlets and, everything's online now. So everything's online. And, having that audience, doing email marketing, doing social media to promote yourself and your projects, that's just one way to do publicity and at a lesser expense, versus paying someone to, write a press release or, do even go on a book tour. That's one way to promote yourself. But being digital, that's the way to go, to promote yourself.
I think digital media has allowed us to connect so much further to other creatives, to the audience members that we want to connect with and share our stories with, and also to just resources to help us do all those things. So from the perspective of connecting and building a community, so that once you actually have your project released and you can immediately give it to them, utilizing like social media, of course. One thing that people knock is like Facebook, but Facebook is still around if you know how to use it. Like Facebook groups are still influential. There is still like Facebook groups with like tens of thousands of people that are active. And so if you are still like, I've been on Facebook since 2010 and I'm not leaving, that's okay, stay there and like really find those groups where you can be starting conversations with, start conversations through social media hashtags to build that community, drive them back to your website or drive them back to your social media channels where they can get even more information about you and follow your story up until the point where you release. Other digital media, you can, I'm scared to say this at a writers conference, but I know there's talk about AI and the dangers of it, and it is dangerous for what it can do, but there also are benefits when you're thinking about like, you have limited resources, you don't have a lot of people, and you all are also hearing the conversations about, but you have to have a robust, dynamic, strategic social media plan, and you're thinking, dang, I done already made the product, now I gotta make the content to like share it with people, I done already did the work. If you use things like Jasper.io, they do like copywriting specifically for like social media content and like short form content, just take it, plug it in there, they can give you templates as far as like emails, social media content plans, even a content like strategy, like timeline, and all that does is like build the framework for you, and then you go in and you give it what AI can't do, which is that like humanistic addition. So it at least like helps you get to that next point. It helps you get started, so then you can go in and put your own flavor and your own vibe to it. Another one is BuzzSumo. So they actually help you figure out, okay, you know what your target audience is. They help you figure out, okay, where is your target audience? What platform are they on? And then give you content ideas and inspiration so that you can really filter and tailor what that is for you. Another thing is that like digital media can really help you connect to other creatives. So definitely think about utilizing other platforms and other influencers. And when I say influencers, I don't mean like the people who have like tens of millions of subscribers or followers. These are people that are within your kind of orbit of aligned audiences. They're talking about the same kind of content that you're talking about. Connect with them, search hashtags, see what kind of content they're creating, send them a message and say, hey, I've got this project coming out, really love the content that you're doing. I see that you host a blog, or you've got a newsletter that goes to 10,000 people every month. Could you put this blurb, or could you put this quick trailer into your newsletter? And people are more open to helping you than you might think. The kind of model that I live by is like closed mouths don't get fed. So like if you provide the blurb, or you provide the photo or the asset for them and just ask them, hey, can we do some sort of partnership? Can you share this? Send it to a bunch of people, send it to their DMs. If you're thinking even larger, you want to work with like media companies. Search for media companies that are connected to the target audiences that you want to get your project to. Having something like an electronic press kit that already has that information already put together makes the work a lot easier for you, because you already just copy and paste and send it. And then from there, you have like the more dynamic conversation, but at least have those steps in place to easily send an email, send a DM, start the conversation, and go from there. We got questions?
Yeah.
For the like copywriting, jasper.io, BuzzZumo, so BuzzSumo. BuzzSumo.
And if you do have a question, just if I see you, I'll stop and get your questions answered, okay?
Cool?
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah, make sure y'all still up. Okay.
Can I say one thing really quickly?
Of course.
Because what Viya made me think about with your EPK, your electronic press kit that you should even have if you're wanting to publish your own book and things of that nature, whatever project you have. Those are the things that you can put in your link tree. Does anybody know what a link tree is? Yes. Make use of a link tree, especially on a platform such as Instagram or even a TikTok, because your Instagram is basically like a digital resume and portfolio. And personally, when I go on Instagram and I see artists or authors who have, for example, like a Google Doc in their, as their link, their hyperlink in their bio, I'm like, what is this? A cleaner way to do it, if you're needing to aggregate certain things for your project so that you can direct people where they need to go in a fashionable way, is have a link tree. And link tree is free to use. You can pay for it to get it customized, but make use of that specifically for your social media platforms. Another thing, and just going back to brand, your brand is just a story that you're showing and telling the world of yourself. Please get a headshot. Get a proper headshot that has great lighting, that is also, it talks to your personality possibly. Make use of portraits, because these are the first things that are gonna meet the audience before you're even able to meet them yourself or have a conversation with them. That's another thing on social media. Even I have a best friend whose mom came out with a children's book about like putting gardens in the living room and things of that nature, and it's an amazing book. And I said, Miss Danny, do you have a headshot? Let me see your Instagram. Let me see your LinkedIn. Let me see your website. And best believe, she's like, girl, I did not get started on those things. I'm like, Miss Danny, you just finished your book. You already have copies sitting in your living room. Now is already time. You're already behind the ball, Miss Danny, and I love you, but we got to get those things up and going, because people, they want to see that stuff. They want to see how you're presenting yourself online. They want to see how you're thinking about your own work. They want to see how you're engaging an audience. Because also, too, if you're pitching to a company to collaborate or partner with them, they want to see if you're going to be a good partner. How are they going to see that? Through the way that you're presenting yourself online. For your bio, make it concise on Instagram. It doesn't have to be anything long. Use the resources that Vi even mentioned about AI to do that small work that you probably don't want to do in terms of thinking about something that's catchy. Fine. Put a bio up there, have your portrait up there, have your link tree to your links to your website, your portfolio, maybe an article that someone did on you, or maybe an article that you wrote on your own project. But just having that all part of really an extended EPK, like Vi said. So digital media, unfortunately, y'all, is here, and we got to make use of it, especially as artists, because sometimes that's all we have. And we could do it because we literally are the ones creating the algorithm for social media. It changes every day because of the ways that we're engaging and interacting with digital media. But across the board, you have to have a solid profile up, and people have to know once they get to your Instagram, where am I going? what do you want me to do? If you want me to go and donate to your project, where's the link in your link tree? Make that stuff super easy for people to find, because people don't want to do more work than they have to do. They just want to tap their thumb or tap their finger. And that's fine. I'll make it easy for you. So also make use of QR codes.
Yes.
Even though it's on your phone, some people might be next to a friend who's like, oh, look at this, there's a QR code. They might use their phone to then use the QR code to go to your website or your book or whatever you're creating.
And you
So-
can make those things on Canva.
Yeah.
Yes.
If
Can
you
I
don't
actually-
have money, or if you feel like you don't have the funds that you may feel like to pay somebody, you can go on Canva. They got free tutorials, and you can learn how to do your own QR code, your own EPK, your own press kit. All of that stuff is already, it's templates already made for you. You just got to go and plug and play on Canva.
Exactly, yeah. One other thing, in addition to the QR code and the link tree, definitely think about QR codes, digital business cards. There are 2 resources, Hi Hello, the app. That's a digital business card. You can add your headshot on there. You can add links to your link tree, your social media profile, your phone number, your email, your website. Literally just download the app. It'll give you a QR code when you're in conversation with someone. You can even put them like on stickers and put them on the back of your phone, or when you're in conversation, just pull that over to them and let them scan it, and that gives them all the information that you have instead of having to create and print and spend money on an actual business card. So Hi Hello is one. There's another one called Beacon Stack, BEACON Stack. It's another digital QR code app. But one thing to answer your question about the digital media space is don't feel pressured to just like conform to a media space because it's hot. Like, figure out a way to, like, if you really want to get on TikTok, do that. I was able to avoid the 2020, like, whatever that wave was where everybody got on TikTok, not because of like I was just trying to like be against it, because I knew I would get sucked into it. But now I'm sure also like people see new platforms coming and are trying to figure out, oh, how do I make the most of it? How do I make it as profitable as possible? If you feel like that's not your vibe, I know I'm not a TikTok vibe, so I'm not gonna get on TikTok. Be in the spaces that are most authentic to you and that feel most like free flowing, and you're able to have the best conversation with who you need to have, and like thrive in that area. Don't feel the pressure to conform to any of these platforms.
Nice. With that being said, what are the most critical changes that we must make to face the future effectively? I know. I'm sticking to you. I know. Hard. I know. I'll let you think on it. Anybody want to answer? Need the question again?
I'll go first. You just have to be open, have an open mind with the changing technology. Just be open. You don't, like Vi said, you don't have to do all of the social media platforms. I'm a Facebook or an Instagram and Twitter person, or X now. You know, I'm not on TikTok either. But just be open, you know, because technology is always changing. Things are always advancing. Like I said, you could get a magazine and a newspaper now, Essence, the AJC, everything's digital now. You know, we're moving to more digital platforms where you're not going to maybe see the newspaper as much. So just be open to, you know, the changes in technology. Don't get left behind. You know, limiting yourself, well, I'm not going to get on that, or I don't understand how to use it. Be open to learning about the new technology and the changes, because if not, you're going to be left behind. Yeah. And if you want to promote yourself, you need to be up on, you know, what people are doing today. Forget about yesterday.
Yes, retweet. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Continue to learn what the new things are so you won't get left behind, but also like learn the rules in order to break them. Like, know what the platforms are, know what the new resources to get your work out there to share with people, but also don't be afraid to be different. Like, in this oversaturated media space that we're in, so many people are trying to like do the copy and paste, the drag and drop, utilize all these templates, and that's great, but don't be afraid to go in and add your own twist to it, because that's what's gonna help you stand out in an overcrowded environment, in an arena. So be okay to really tap into what about your project is different? If you think, like that thing that you think, oh, people aren't gonna read this or people aren't gonna look at this because of this, that's what you need to tune more into and highlight, because that's what people are missing right now. And so figure out the ways or the things that make you different and really highlight those. And I think also within this changing media like landscape is to really hone in on your community as far as the community that you are connecting to, really understand what they are interested in and what they're looking to consume, but then also the community of your support. Like when we're in the digital spaces, it can be like so crowded and feel like who can I turn to, or there are so many different resources. Really find the community of support that's gonna help you on all these different levels. As you grow, as your project grows and gets out there, the people that can still stay with you and support you as that happens. Because like this is all happening online, but the real work and the impact is happening in our lives together. So really stay connected to the work that we're doing together.
Technology and AI may have a lot of things, but it doesn't have you. It doesn't have your spirit. It doesn't have our collective memory as a people. It doesn't have our history. It doesn't even have the way that we might walk, talk, be at the kitchen table, and the ways that we make our food, and the ways that we might write or conjure memories and ideas in the creative process. It doesn't have any of that. And so for me, in terms of getting ahead, in terms of the future, keep writing. Keep writing, keep nurturing your creative spirit, find out what kinds of new stories you can tell, tap into those worlds, tap into those creative imaginations, because those are the things that when everything is all said and done, and it might just be us in a dark world, if everything crashes, all you will have is a story, your imagination, to even fathom a different kind of world. And so to me, I'm like, I'm not so tapped in with everything else that is going on with technology and AI and things of that nature, but what I know is that the Black women writers of the 60s, 70s, the 1920s, even before them, great-grandmothers, their spirits are the ones that's keeping me at the table, behind my camera, writing new stories, thinking about how can I make my character more complex, more dynamic? How can this be a different story to tell? How can I break away from certain archetypes of narratives that have been perpetually harming us or causing violence to the community? So how can I get ahead of the time by thinking about what's already been done, but thinking about the knowledge and the seeds and the wisdom that has already been sown in a plethora of gardens before me, and use that for the future, because a lot of that ancestral wisdom, that's the key to everything. That's the key to liberation. That is exactly what runs through our veins. We've always been an emerging group of people. We've always had emergent strategy, if anybody knows Adrienne Maree Brown. And so, yeah, going back to all of the other things that really don't matter, it's like beyond everything else, there's us, the people in this room that are trying to figure out how we can keep creating, but how we can make our projects more dynamic, but also how we can get it out to community, get the word out. So yeah. Don't stop writing, don't stop creating, don't stop imagining, and don't stop learning. That is so important. And learning, I mean, like, go through books. Go through books and books and books. Read books where authors are talking to each other. Maybe through a poem. What are they saying? What is the knowledge that they're passing through each other just through conversation? Because I think that will also help you in the writing process. Yeah, because we're gonna continue to need these stories. They just bring a different kind of that AI can't really touch. And that's okay, because we don't need it to do that anyway. They can try and replicate all they can from us, but they can only replicate but so much. So that is my contribution to that.
With that being said, Liz, what has worked for you in your journey that you feel can definitely help the audience today?
We start with me? Or oh, wait. I'm sorry. I'm still, You're right. I'm still from the last question. I'm sorry. Give me a second.
Okay, we can go ahead to the next person if you want to answer.
What was the question?
What worked for you in your journey that you want to share with the audience that helped them?
You got some?
Oh, we got
I have a question. It kind of leads into this next phase. There was a lot of conversation that talks about tapping into what's currently happening and tapping into AI and tapping into finding your target audience. My background is in music. I'm a new author. I released my first book last year.
Also say your name. Also, if you have a question, audience, we want to know who you are, so say your name.
So my name is Deep.
Hey, Deep.
I'm a Deep Page is my author name. Under Deep, I spent years as a brand, as a singer, and I've done a lot of different things heard about the brand being so big in one avenue, how do I cross over? Fortunately, with my name being deep, it kind of made sense. I was going to write a book, so here we are. But what I am finding is when we look into how do we find our audience, how do we connect with people that are our target audience, and we go through the platforms, people that are readers aren't typically as active on social media. They aren't as in tune with some of the changes in technology. And so I'm trying to find how do we bridge our hurdle, the disconnect from their availability, even their awareness. They're not even sure how to use social media. I'm finding people in my book is in the self-help space. And those people that are looking for that aren't necessarily as savvy on social media. So they're not available there. What methods can we do to reach them and to connect to those particular peers? How do we reach other artists, other authors that are on that same journey? How do we not find ourselves in a position of competitiveness, but as peership and building community so that we can find an audience that is out there, but they're not necessarily available on social media?
I would say you're right. Everyone's not on social media, but you can still connect with your audiences. For people who are book authors, you know, you can do book tours or attend conferences, or there are community groups that you can join of book authors who, you know, they're not on social, but they're out in the community. You know, like I said, do a book tour, get people to come out to meet you, to see your book, you know, have your website up. People can refer to your website, and just connect with other book authors. I would suggest that.
Yeah.
What are some names of those communities or
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, what's some names of those? I would love some. I don't know, because I live in Los Angeles. And so
Okay.
I don't know. I flew in because, I heard about this, and I'm one of maybe 100 peers that are like, let's finish these books. We're finishing them on tour. I'm finishing them internationally and nationally. And I have resources to say, oh, that's happening next weekend, let me fly in.
Yeah.
And I think it's assumed that we know which bookstores or which book clubs, and so there's this giant umbrella.
I'm also a new author, and my publisher was also telling me about getting them in the libraries, because libraries are still taking your book, and so you can rent them out, whether it's 1 copy or 2 copy, and they rent your books out outside of the book tours, and also audiobooks, you know, getting them in the audio form to add those to podcast platforms and that type of thing as well.
Yeah. Also, you can like put your stuff on like Amazon Prime, and then just have your own people that come and really purchase from there, and you can have like a campaign that really links people back to that. Also thinking about public libraries. Have y'all heard of the Libby app?
Yes.
So Libby is a app where if you have a public library card or membership to any public library in like the nation, you can download any of the books that are in that public library on your phone. And so audiobooks, regular
How do you spell
books.
Libby? Some people don't know.
Libby. And it's super important to have, like, if you're a newer author, you can get your stuff on there too. So make sure that you've gotten your work into your public library system. Like, there's this one book that I actually met the author here, and she told me about her book. And for so long, I was waiting for it to get on Libby. I mean, I obviously bought it when it dropped, but I move around a lot, so I use Libby for most of my things. And you can actually you can recommend for your library to get that book into their system and then onto Libby. And so that's what I did with her book. And I think about 2 weeks ago, it got onto the Libby app, and I've already downloaded it, read it. So that's also that bridge of like the older generation of where we were, and also how do we continue to move things like reading forward in a digital landscape. So definitely check out Libby. I do want to answer your question about like peer spaces, and I think also answers your question about like what I would have. What was the question again?
What advice or tips have you used on your journey that you want
to
share the wealth?
Thank you. Sometimes I just got to know what I'm talking about. But for me, it's more important to really think about your community and to think about how do you highlight the other people that are around you, because it's so true. It's not competition. there's all opportunity for each of us. And so a great idea, especially for new people who are dropping projects, is to tap into the community that you have and see what their resources, their abilities are. So if you have a book coming out, and you have a filmmaker friend, like you're in LA, you're around so much talent. Like if you got a book coming out, you got a filmmaker friend, ask them, hey, do you want to make a trailer for my book? And then can we drop that trailer? Can we have a campaign specifically for that? That's helping their craft, and that's also helping you reach their audiences as well. Because like readers, some of them might be in very niche situations, but everybody's a reader. So most people are readers. So they're gonna be in different situations. So get a homie that can make a trailer for you. If you are a filmmaker and you have somebody who's a songwriter or they make music, ask them, can they make a soundtrack or just one track that is the soundtrack of your film, and then y'all show that. Even if you got people who make like candles or they make digital signage, like ask them, can you make a scented candle specifically for my book? And then can we share that like as a promotional item or a giveaway within both of our audiences? Like really tap into all the different creatives around you and see how can we work together to fuel each other's passions, but then also move our projects to our different audiences. And then from there, you just collaborate. Like that's that energy that you have just together will then either spark more inspiration and new things, or that'll just continue to connect you to the people who you need to be.
Can I ask you a question? What is your book about?
It's called Fall Back to Step Up, and it's 30 of the recurring ideals and mindsets that I've encountered as I've toured the world of people that have restrict people from reaching to the next level.
That's deep.
Fall back from boxes, fall back from perpetuating a stereotype,
Nobody's.
fall back from unnecessary must-haves. Yeah, it's about ascension and achievement.
When you were conceptualizing the idea for your book and you're talking about ascension, who was your audience?
Originally myself.
Of course.
I felt that in my career, I went from a very solo career to singing background for some major artists. And I felt that if I was initially signed, this was a step back. And I realized it was other people that felt like that sometimes we're kind of thrown off track.
Mm-hmm.
I think our purpose of Bible is. And as people started wanting to work with me in their artist development, I realized I couldn't reach everybody. Let me provide a resource that says these are the things that I've experienced. These are the mindsets that I had to create myself up from church programming to science and understanding, marketing concepts, art development myself to really be able to position myself to go to the next level. So entrepreneurs, other creatives, and people that just, want the win but don't want the ill.
Do you spend a lot of time with these people?
In a way, I think that I'm in a lot of people's homes. I work
Okay.
with big people brands, and so they feel that they know me by that route.
Where do you all frequent together? And the reason why I'm asking you is because in terms of finding people, even on social media, a lot of people aren't on social media, but a lot of people are on social media. But it's also getting to the core of your story and the core of that community that you're trying to reach, because you might be trying to reach a number of different people, but maybe they're not congregating online in the same way you think they're congregating online. But if you're telling me that your audiences are people like you, think about places that you may frequent. Where do you have a lot of these conversations? What are these people doing in their home? What do they love to do? And the reason why I ask that is because, for example, in Atlanta, there's a bookstore with a wine store connected to it, right? These are two people that came together with the love of books and wine. A lot of times, if you're an avid book reader, you're home. What are you doing? You might be drinking a lot of wine. So your book lover might also be a wine enthusiast. And so maybe you want to put your work in front of wine enthusiasts. Or maybe your music lover is really active, like physically active. Maybe they spend a lot of time at the gym because they listen to a lot of music while they're like working out at the gym, and that's the only thing that gets them through it. And so maybe they might not be tapped into self-help books or self-help communities online, but maybe they're tapped into a lot of music communities online because they're waiting for the next song that's about to drop that will help them to get through their workout. And so I'm asking about your book and who you are, because a lot of people that you're looking for are online, but they're just tapped into different conversations, but together it makes sense for them in their own little world that they're curating. But it might not be readily visible to you because you're also thinking about your own world. But it's also just another way of finding these people through the things that they love. And so if someone is self-help, for example, I love self-help books. I'm tapped in, but I'm also thinking about holistic wellness. And so are you looking into that community as well? Because if I'm on a journey to get myself better, I want a self-help book, but I'm also looking for communities that I can go and meditate with. So I'm following a Atlanta Buddhist community online, you know, but I'm also looking to see the resources. I'm looking to see when they meet up, but also when I meet with them, I'm like, what are you reading? What are you listening to? You know, so that's another way that you can try and reach those different people, but also just thinking about the core of it. Last example is like, I love sci-fi, and a lot of my stories have to do with like memory and traveling and black women and black feminist things of that nature. I'm tapped into a lot of black feminist groups. I don't know if they like movies, but what I do know is that they might like a story that has to deal with memory and ancestral wisdom and things of that nature. So then it's like, you might have not thought about this, but I'm working on a film script that has to do with this. You might like it. Then they're like, oh, I never thought about that before, but we just share that common interest, that common passion and love. And so, yeah, just another way to connect with people, you know, and the things that they love to do. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I know we're having a good time, but they don't gave me the 5-minute warning. So I am going to open the floor to the audience for one last question before we close out. Does anybody have any other questions, suggestions? Open to the floor. Going once, going twice. All right, with that being said, I'm gonna open it back to you all. Is there any last remarks that you want to say, advice, tips, etc. to the audience before we close out?
Wait, they didn't have no questions?
They ain't have no question. Oh, now we got one. What's your name, sir, and what's your question?
My name is James, and my question is, would you advise for self-publishers, like people who put out own books, to try to find a team, whatever that means in terms of publicists or other people to help us, or should we just do it all ourselves?
You should always try, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna say you should just always try, because I mean, any help is good help. So don't try to feel like you have to go it alone. But I would love to know what you think about that.
Yeah, absolutely. What Vi said, of course, try. And what I know from interviewing book authors and writing about them is that you can be successful as an independent or indie writer, or you can be successful with a big publisher. It's just, you know, what I've learned is that you have to be clear on what it is you want to do. But absolutely, you know, if you can get help, get it. But just know that you can be successful being independent.
I also can answer that question. So I am a new author, but I'm also a celebrity assistant and personal assistant. So for me, I wasn't even trying to write no book. I was like, I don't have time for that. And so it ended up being a process where they was like, no, girl, you're going to write this book. And I was like, okay. But I had to have help, whether that help be a family member doing your social media posts for you, because you're only one person. It's only so much you can do, to you going and doing events and selling your books at conferences and having a booth. You're still going to need help. You're still going to need a team to wear that marketing, why they walk around just handing out flyers. So even think about your help or your team as being that small person to just be your promo team. You can't promote your book by yourself. You're just one person. We got one more question in the front. What's your name, beautiful? What's your question?
Okay, so I am a first-time author as well.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I wrote a children's book that educates kids about sexual abuse. And so with that book, I've had some pushback from some customers who didn't want to buy it. You know, it's a sensitive topic. And I've also had people who, you know, it's like, you gotta know about it, right? So how have you guys, like, handled any pushback with your projects, and how do you overcome that? Because I'm trying to figure out, like, how can I expand my audience, like, how can I get the message out there more and win over, I guess you could say, the people who are a little nervous about teaching their kids about this topic.
Oh.
We're leaving that one for you.
Do you know Black Girls for Justice, or Justice for Black Girls? look into Justice for Black Girls. The founder is a Spelman grad. She's really dope, but she's mobilizing a lot of young Black girls and young Black women to basically stand up for a lot of different things in the community and a lot of things that maybe people don't want to talk about, but what I love about what she's doing is that she has a real foundation and base to the conversations that she's having. She's already tapped into, well, how does this conversation work for an audience like this, knowing that it's a tricky topic? What kind of language are we using? How are we approaching this within a certain kind of environment? What feels better in one space as opposed to the other? But it's really dope because she's also teaching the girls about how to, she's just giving them a real critical lens. And so the thing is like when you produce a book like that and you're wanting to have it for children, it could be an amazing book to have, but do the children have literacy in a way where they can understand the things that you're talking about and contextualize it in a healthy way? Because they're going to need that foundation if they're approaching a topic like that. Are there going to be people in the room or people in their life that can have conversations with them as they're actively reading your book? Who are those adults? Do you have a reading guideline that is accompanying your book with this topic? If children are needing outside assistance and support, or even families, because maybe they don't know how to approach this, what resources are you providing as a new author to say, you don't have to look too far, it's not too hard, I already have everything outlined for you. If you need a counselor, here's where you can find them. If you need a hotline, here's the information. If you need a local community group, here's the name for it so that they don't have to go searching for that information. A lot of times we're just scared because we don't know, but if it's an important conversation we need to have because we need to break intergenerational cycles, there's a lot of learning that we still need to do and a lot of support and guidance we need from even the people that are closest to us. And sometimes with kids, as I personally feel, they don't need to be on that reading journey alone. I feel like they need to be with somebody. I feel like they need instruction, they need guidance, they need someone that they can share their opinions with. Maybe they don't agree with your book. Maybe they're reading and they're like, that's not what I felt. They need somebody that's going to be there to engage in a critical dialogue about why they might be wrong, unfortunately. So that's something I'm thinking about. But I think about Justice for Black Girls because as an organization, there are tenets of that organization that speak to doing the hard work, learning about the hard work, and community organizing around that, and still it being like a viable thing. Like it's an amazing thing, and a lot of Black girls love it to the point where Spelman is instituting a curriculum just for that kind of work. And so it's not impossible, but you just have to get ahead of the game in terms of, providing the resources and things like that, especially because you're talking about sexual assault. Yeah. I'm not sure if Justice for Black Girls are based in Atlanta, but they're based everywhere, and you can reach them. And they have ambassadors, like young girls are ambassadors of the organization. And so, yeah, I would highly encourage you to tap into those types of groups.
So I know y'all having such a good time, but it's that time, y'all. So before we are about to wrap up, but before we wrap up, if each of you can go and let the audience know how they can find you, how they can contact you if they do have follow-up questions or comments or concerns, and then we'll close out. We could start with V.
Okay, well, thank y'all for coming and listening to us. Good luck to y'all. It's so exciting to have projects out and whatnot, and so I'm just rooting all of y'all on. You can find me on Instagram at the Wise Vi, TheWisevi. I be on LinkedIn, Vi Andrews. And if you are creative and you do other things and you look to have those things help support you and sustain you, like if you have other creative processes or if you're a freelance creator, hit me up after, because that's my main gig and I'm always trying to put people on. So if you're a writer, editor, graphic designer, event producer, whatever, hit me up.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming out today. Tianna Faulkner. You can follow me on Instagram at Tianna, Tianna Faulkner, Faulkner. That's my Instagram, and you can reach me there.
Hey everybody, thanks for coming out. You can find me through email at London, like the city, Liz, Liz, as in zebra, V as in victory, @gmail.com. And I'm on LinkedIn too, under Lizette London.
And I am Kiera Weldon. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff at Key the Assistant. That's Kee, the Assistant.
And I just want to say thank you to everyone in the venue for joining us today. I'd like to thank our panelists again for this great conversation. Thank you to Auburn Avenue Research Library. We also have to thank our sponsors, which is Amazon, KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, AJC, Book Logics, the Atlanta Mayor's Office of Film and Media, Partake Food, Penguin Random House, Auburn Avenue Research Library for hosting us, and of course, for supporting our efforts and amplify our stories. Follow the festival on social media at Black Writers Weekend and tag us on your posts. And hashtag is Black Writers Weekend. Thank y'all so much.